Namaskar. The topic of discussion in this module is on the properties of seawater. All water existing at or near the surface of the earth belongs to the hydrosphere. It includes atmospheric water vapor, groundwater, lakes, rivers, polar ice caps and the oceans. The waters of the oceans cover more than 70% of the earth's surface. The water that is most often found in nature is the oceanic water or sea water. It is about 98% existing on the globe as seas and oceans. The rest is distributed as ice, water vapor and fresh water on the land. Oceanic water plays a very important role in controlling the global weather and climate. It helps in interactions between the atmosphere and the hydrosphere and maintaining the water balance of the globe. Oceans also provide enormous living and non-living resources for human consumption. Sea water is one of the most fascinating and plentiful substances on the planet Earth. Sea water has a very unique chemistry, physics and biology. The basic properties of sea water and their distribution, the interchange of properties between sea and the atmosphere or land, the transmission of energy within the sea and the geochemical laws which are governing the composition of sea water and marine sediments are the fundamental aspects to be studied under the subject oceanography. To know the role of sea water in the earth's hydrosphere, the following aspects are to be studied or understood first: the physical properties of sea water, the chemical composition of sea water, the biological conditions of sea water, the temperature distribution in oceans and the salinity and density of oceans. Seas and oceans are very huge bodies of saline waters. Their distribution and dynamics are very influential in several ways. The key roles of the oceans are: they absorb and reflect sun's light, they store the heat, they transport the stored heat, they cause major changes in the climatic systems, they are the main source of atmospheric water vapor, they exchange gases with the atmosphere. Understanding the properties of sea water is inevitable in oceanographic studies. Let us see all these aspects in detail. The first part is the physical properties of sea water. The water of the seas and oceans has formed over millions of years ago. Most people do not realize the complex nature of sea water. In fact, sea water cannot be duplicated in any laboratory anywhere in the world. Sea water has its own physical, chemical and biological properties. Due to its huge volume and thickness, it has certain unique characteristics in the distribution of temperature, pressure and density. Most of these properties vary both horizontally and vertically. The physical properties of sea water also act as limiting factors in the marine ecosystems. Water in general is a good solvent. Sea water is an effective solvent. Sea water is also at the receiving end to dissolve all the sediments derived from the land. Rivers carry much of the dissolved organic and inorganic substances towards the sea. These loads increase the salt content of the oceans every year. Sea water has many conservative and non-conservative properties. Sea water has several unique properties like high heat capacity, latent heat of fusion, latent heat of vaporization, latent heat of melting, thermal expansion, density, viscosity and turbidity. Water has the capacity to store heat, conduct heat and release heat. The heat capacity of sea water is the highest of all solids and liquids except the liquid ammonia. The heat transfer in oceanic waters is very high. The latent heat of fusion is also highest in sea water when compared to the other liquids except ammonia. Hence, it acts as a thermostat at freezing point owing to uptake or release of latent heat. The latent heat of evaporation is yet another property which is also the highest in sea water than other substances. It is important for both heat and water transfer to the atmosphere from oceans. Thermal expansion is another important property of sea water. The temperature of maximum density decreases with increasing salinity. For pure water, it is at 4 degrees Celsius. Sea water is also characterized by its surface tension. It is the highest for sea water among all the liquids. Sea water is colorless in small volumes. Due to the presence of organic life and sediment loads near the coast, it may be looking greenish blue or turbid in some places. Blue is the longest wavelength of the colors of the spectrum. Since it is the last one to be absorbed by the ocean, it is the most dominant color reflected in oceanic waters. When descending into the sea, the colors of the spectrum begin to be filtered out. The first color to disappear is the red color. The color of the sea can also indicate several of its properties. In addition to this, sea water also transmits sound. The speed of sound travelling in sea water is also a special feature. It is about 1500 meters per second, and some low frequencies may travel for long distances also in seas and oceans. Hence, it is possible to analyze the depth of the seas and oceans using sound waves.